Watch review of the REACTOR Poseidon reference 54902. G'day guys, how's it going? Welcome back of course to the Time Bomb channel. Hope all is good in your part of the world. So lent into the channel today we have an admirable beastie. This is the REACTOR Watches Poseidon reference 54902, and yes, it's an absolute bloody monster. It's more tooly than my vintage tools down here, and yes, it's way more fun than your average Timex. Sadly, the company is in wind down. I think the owner, Jimmy here, is retiring, and if that's what real retirement looks like, man, I want to retire today. Let me just zoom in a fraction. So most of the watches that the company released were bold, chunky, heavily over-engineered, and certainly not for the faint-hearted. These watches are over everything. This particular Poseidon model was a limited edition version, and just get around the back, I'll pop up a close-up. This is number 156 in a run of only 500, so a fairly exclusive watch. So yes, because of the size of it, I know you're all dying to know what are those key specs. So yes, it is a very ample girth of 48 mils north to south. It then has a borderline absurd north to south measurement of 57 millimeters. I think that's the longest watch that I've ever come across. It's huge, but ironically it actually works on wrist, and let me just demonstrate that right now. So I'm rocking the Pingo today, a much more manageable watch for more wrist sizes. But what I mean by this one, so it's not sized for me, so let me just throw it on here. So yeah, what I was referring to is that the length of the lugs is so severe that it actually sits right at the end of my wrist bone. My wrist is 7¼ inches, and I'll pop up some shots so you can view it from the other way. But because of that actual curve down on the edges of your wrist, it actually sits quite comfortably on wrist. So yes, yeah, ridiculously huge, but there's an aspect of it that actually makes it work. It then is a ridiculous deep dish pizza at 17 mils deep, and again I think probably one of the deepest watches that we've had on the channel. So yeah, your door frames around your house are going to know that you're wearing this watch today. The actual lugs inside here then are 22 mils, but the outer lugs themselves are freaking monstrous. Yeah, I think it's, I measured that one. Hang on a second, where's me ding dong gone? Let me just show you what that one comes up as. So you've got a screw on either side, so 10, 20, 30, yeah, it's, yeah, yeah, it's huge. Really huge. So again, as I said, certainly not for the faint-hearted. Yeah, the whole specs of it. In addition to which, this is a full titanium watch, and even at full titanium, it weighs in at 170 grams. I mean, if this thing was all steel, it would be too damn heavy for my wrist. You'd need to be built like Eddie Hall in order to be able to wear this. Coming back to the bracelet, it doesn't taper as such, but the clasp is a little bit slimmer at 20 mils. You can see that you've sort of got that dive extension bit there. Let me just put that back inside. So, yeah, might be affecting it. There we go. Yeah, so as I say, you've just got, yeah, it just drops down just a fraction. You see you've got that step section there on that last link. Also to note, very few micro adjusts there. You just got 2 extra positions, but perhaps that's why they've added in that dive extension aspect here. What else was I going to say to you? Yeah, so you've got a little bit of branding there on the bracelet. Sorry, grab the focus. Yeah, branding on the bracelet there, which is quite attractive. And then yeah, the engraved one on the bottom of the clasp here, but yeah, it's been worn quite heavily, so yeah, expect some dingage on that. But there's no None of the Invicta branding style on the sides of the case body at all. As I mentioned, it's all titanium, and I think it must have had some heavy duty coating applied, because it's worn its dings very well. It's not as marked up for an old titanium watch as you usually find on these things. Usually these things are just, you know, look like your wedding ring or something. They've been that they carry the scratches that badly. This one, as I say, no idea what the coating was that they used. If you do know, please drop a comment down below. But it's really held the wear very well, and doesn't look badly dinged, scratched at all. I'll show you the picture of the reference number on the back, but let me just show you. I mean, again, a massive porthole on the back here. Yeah, totally over-engineered, but again, I really do like those. I just love it. I love the over-engineered aspect of it. And then you can see through inside into here the old Miyota 9015 movement inside. You'll find that movement, of course, in a good number of micro brands like Boulder, Zelos, etc. still using it. It's a little bit of a step up from your average NH35, and it looks like this on the time grapher. It's a cheapo grapher, as I often mention, but it gives a decent indication of the movement. This particular watch has been lent to me by my nephew, so I can guarantee it's never been serviced. So I think that movement is quite holding up quite well. Yes, there's a little bit of snow on there, but I reckon after a drop of oil and a little bit of clean the gunk out, that thing would be running very well again. So again, testament to the movement and to whoever regulated it, you know, what was it, 20 years back. As you can see on the dial here, we've got the ND referencing the Never Dark, which is essentially a combination of superluminova and tritium. So essentially on the hour markers and the ends of the hand, you've got dollops of superluminova, and then you have just on the base of the hand, the section of the hand, and at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, you have tiny trit tubes, which sort of brings your a mini light source to charge that loom. As I say, I'm thinking this is early 2000s, looking at their website for when this one was released. And as you can see, the trit tubes kind of should be replaced, but unlike marathon watches, you notice that the trit tubes are still stuck on and attached. I think the loom has stood up pretty well, if you consider how old it is. But sadly, the loom triangle at the top here hasn't fared as well. It almost looked like it's completely, you know, it's discolored. Something's gone wrong there, and is very faded. Monstrous crowns on the side here, both super gnarly, very easy to operate, and this, you know, very slick, smooth, yeah, perfect. Really, absolutely no issue at all. Again, very surprising if you consider the age of the watch and the fact that it hasn't been looked after at all. The top one, a little bit odd on this one. The top one releases the inner bezel. So let me just unscrew that. And as you can see, that sort of spins around, so you've got your additional chrono measurements there. However, as much as a great function as it is, you know, and a good fun thing to have, let's pop it back up to the 12, there's a slight issue with it, and again, maybe that could be remedied. But as you close it, you get towards the end of the screw, it moves. So it's very difficult, and of course that time, every time I've done this before, it's moved. Just as I finish screwing it in, it moves a fraction. So what happens is that it's very difficult to get it lined up. All right, okay, fantastic. So I'm talking out my rear end here because I've just done it twice there. Again, I found it quite difficult to get it to align perfectly because, as I say, just as you're getting to the end of the screw there, it just moves a little bit on the inside. You often see that with some of these, there's that rotating bezel on the inside just sort of, you know, wobbles a little bit. The bezel action is good. Let's give it a quick listen. So again, non-maintained for over 20 years, it still sounds pretty good. But the one downside that I find to it is that because it's quite sort of shallow where the the grip area is that as you move around to over the lugs specifically, or over the crowns, your hands or your finger or your thumb gets pushed off. so it tends to be a little bit more of the middle finger shuffle required here. Choice of colour of the hands, I think the yellow is a bit of an odd one. They stand out quite well here, and obviously that dial more silver than the Silver Surfer can handle, and out in the sunshine, yes, it's a little bit shiny, and it does reflect quite a lot of light. Let me just get that back up to the top so the OCDs amongst you. Yeah, it's just popped one over there. Yeah, anyway. So yes, all in all, a ridiculous watch, but I absolutely love it. It's fugly, it's massive. As I say, it's a ridiculous tool watch, and it stood up very, very, very well over time, I think, which is testament to the build quality that these guys, you know, were focused on at the time. It's overbuilt. I think it's going to be able to take a few more years of very, very hard wear, and it should be worn with a huge smirk grin on your grinagog. Don't take this one too seriously. All right, guys, have you owned a Reactor? And you know, what's been your experience with the brand? Would you buy one off eBay? My nephew has sent this to me to shove up on my eBay shop. So if you're interested in the Poseidon limited edition titanium, check it out. Thanks as always for your time and your view, and we'll catch you all in the next watch vid. Cheers, guys.